One of the other things that's been really interesting, actually partnered with UGAM and building out these tools, is that it's forced us to actually do a little bit less hand-waving than we've done in the past. So the nature of econometrics and cross-sectional analytics and more recently machine learning is that a lot of the time in projects it doesn't quite work. You're dealing with noisy data and you kind of, when you're presenting the results back either to your internal stakeholders or in my case to my clients, there's always a little bit of adjusting the numbers, a little bit of sort of jazz around actually what you present. Now if you're building a tool, there is no room for that. There's no room for adjusting the numbers and a little bit of sort of, handwork over the slides. Everything does have to add up, and there has to be a consistency between SKUMIX, price, promo, and space. And so one of the things I actually found really fascinating was creating this kind of unified theory of how these things work together. And so with a set of test data from 3 or 4 of the clients we were working with, we're actually able to figure out what is the unified theory between, for example, SKU size, as in SKU share of a category, whether it's a high-price SKU or a low-price SKU, and actually figure out cannibalization rules. And there are some universal rules in grocery retailing that, given a SKU's share of the market, its price elasticity, you can actually figure out all the interplay between price, promo, space, and SKUMIX. And all of these things are interrelated in terms of how much space a category and then a SKU should be allocated, how that SKU cannibalizes other SKUs, and so if you want to delist SKUs, you also figure out where do you have instances of high margin SKUs being cannibalized by low margin SKUs, and so not only do you reduce those in terms of delisting, but it also means that the more profitable and incremental SKUs get more space. And it means that when we're stretching our price ladder, price isn't something that exists independent of space, promo, SKUMIX. It has to be considered as part of an integrated ecosystem. And I think one of the things that using these tools has taught me is that our clients often come to us and say, hey, we've got a problem with price. And that is never actually true. They normally have a problem with price, SKUMIX in particular, and space working together. If you talk about price in itself, well, price versus competitors is something that normally captures the attention of our clients. But actually, when you do price optimization, only about 10% of the value you can realize in a grocery retail price optimization project is price versus competitors. The other 90% of the value you realize is optimizing your SKU price ladder in terms of how the SKUs cannibalize each other. By setting out the most elegant price ladder where you optimize price, that's actually where most of the value is realized. And if you realize that price and SKUMIX are two highly interrelated questions, they are like energy and mass, they are the same question really. And if you accept that, then when you come on and look at the relationship between SKU and space, obviously the more space you allocate to a category, the more SKUs you have. That says something about the economics of the using that space. And if you say that SKUMIX and price are related, and SKUMIX and space are related, then actually price and space are related, which is a bit of a jump for many retailers to get their head around. But it's really important when you're using these tools to optimize between these different dimensions. And it's this idea of a sort of unified theory of addressing price, promo, SKUMIX, and space together that has been particularly powerful in some of our work recently, which I found really, really interesting. In terms of the size of the prize, what's interesting is that people get very obsessed with price. And in almost any retail project, the entry point for a client calling me up is normally to talk about price. But actually, price isn't normally where the biggest margin win is. The biggest margin win nearly always is around SKUMIX optimization, typically rationalization, because of this problem of low margin SKUs cannibalizing high margin SKUs. And because of the interplay with macro space, the unproductive categories are getting too much space and productive categories are getting too little space. And of course, the number of SKUs you have and the space that's allocated to those SKUs is somewhat interrelated. Promotion is interesting because people tend to think in terms of, well, tell me what promotions are working and I'll do more of them. And in fact, if you look at a whole array of promotions, it's not really a case of winner stays on and you choose the best one. It's actually eliminating the really kind of ridiculous one that is utterly unproductive and just cannibalistic. And what you see normally is there's much of a muchness for about 80% of promotions behave in a very similar way, but you can identify the worst defending 20% and just eliminate them. The other thing about promotions is I worked with a lot of retailers where you have different teams looking at price ladders and a separate team looking at promotion. And you build this fantastic, elegant price ladder, you don't use SKU mix, it's all hanging together really well, and then someone screws it up by having an unplanned promotion that completely distorts the price ladder. So in categories, certainly in Europe, such as beer is a good one where you see this as an example. You create a very elegant price ladder, but that's destroyed by someone very foolishly, just having a sort of ad hoc promotion without thinking about how it moves volume between the different SKUs. So by having an integrated tool-based approach that looks at SKU mix, macro space, pricing, and promo together, you get a much more kind of coherent way of looking at these problems as one kind of set of problems. But nevertheless, I'd still make the point that although people tend to get very obsessed about price, actually price is not the biggest lever in this mix. And it tends to be rethinking SKU mix, which tends to give this sort of biggest quick win.